Hi, I'm Liz Holpin from Pinhole Quilting. I'm going to go through with you how to set your new Simply 16 up on the little foot frame. In the previous video, there are very similar things between the Avanti and the Simply 16, so I've done those as a combined video because the same principles apply. What we were doing on the previous one was we were getting the track installed according to the size of the carriage, and we were also squaring up the frame and making sure all of the bolts are nice and tight. Because the machine is a fast machine and it's vibrating, it's important to make sure those bolts are nice and tight so that they can't work their way loose. So what I'm going to do on this video is go through getting the carriage onto the frame, setting up the Simply 16 onto it. Okay, so here is my carriage. My carriage, the only difference between a Simply 16 carriage and the Avanti carriage is just this back stopper. So it's very easy for us to switch between those two. We'll have set up the frame for our carriage, tightened the rail. So now this should run nice and smoothly. Occasionally there might be one wheel that is not completely in contact with the surfaces of the black track, and despite whatever you do in terms of adjusting the distance, it doesn't make any difference. That's completely normal, and it works absolutely fine if that's the case, so don't worry about that. So we've got our encoder at the back of the carriage, and this is going to be connected using the flat cable at the back of the Simply 16 in a moment. One of the things I would suggest that you do, we enclose with your Simply 16 two of these. These are channel locks. They're the manual equivalent of the electromagnetic channel locks. These are an awful lot less investment than the electromagnetic channel locks, but they're not quite as much fun. What we're going to do with them right now is we're going to lock that carriage so that it can't move. And I'm going to keep this other one handily by my side so that when I put the machine in place and before I have the rail fitted through the free arm, I can use that other lock to secure the machine and stop it wandering and possibly going for a little journey off the frame. I'm going to get my machine. When you're carrying a heavy machine, it's important to have it close to your body. Try not to put the cone thread holder through your airy cardigan when you do so. I probably couldn't do that again if I tried. Now I'm going to put that channel lock on that wheel, just this other side of here. That can't move now. Nice and secure. I'm going to get the rail. So here's my rail. Feed it through the free arm, pull it towards you and then lock it. There's a lock each side of the frame, and we can now take that channel lock off. This is also a good time to just check whether our frame is nice and level. What we want is that when we stop sewing and we don't have the needle set in the down position, that doesn't go wandering off to the other side of the frame. So just move it around and just check that it comes to a stop. No matter where you are, that it just comes to a natural stop and doesn't try and go moving off of its own accord. That all looks pretty good. Of course, if it wasn't, what we would need to do is adjust the castors or the feet. We've got an adjustable spanner to do that. If you've got the feet, the standard feet on this machine, this is the spanner that you'll need, and you'll adjust those feet on the bolt which fits in that cutout. And the way to remember it is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but in this case, it's actually right to raise, left to lower. So it's a useful one to remember. At the back of our Simply 16, we've got a grey flat, what we call the encoder cable. It's kept in a retainer until you're ready to plug it in. Pop that back in there for nice cable tidy. This encoder cable is going to go into this socket at the back here, and just be aware that there is no lock on that encoder cable, and it does mean that if you happen to, or somebody else happens to be wandering past at the back of your machine and they catch it, it's really easy just to knock it out, and before you know it, it's stitch regulated but only in one direction. And there is a test for that actually in the diagnostics, but the easiest thing is just to come to the back of the machine and make sure it's nicely in place. There is a rubber encoder wheel in here, and I'll show a still of that within this video. So we've now got our encoder cable plugged in here. The encoder cable on this side, on the carriage, on the machine, is going to be your y-axis, and that encoder cable comes underneath this, what we call the power pod or P-pod. And this power pod, we just route it so it goes underneath here. What you don't want to have is it in any way being impeded or run over, even worse, by the wheels. So just make sure that that's like this, and then whichever extent you have of your carriage, it's not going to get run over and damaged in any way. So I've got everything set now in regarding the encoder. In order to plug it in, I've got my cable here with the surge protector, and I can just plug that in, and I can just plug that in. There's a cable securing wire here. Just make sure that that's there. It can't get accidentally pulled out, and then we're ready to turn it on. Okay.